moment. How will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we the people choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again. Making that move.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Audit the Vote newsroom. Don't you love that video? Oh my gosh, I'm back here backstage dancing. First of all, the Trump. Do the Trump. I love this. This is so cool. Good evening. We have a Power Pack show. I'm Tony Shoup, CEO of Audit the Vote, joined with my co-patriot, Karen Taylor from Audit the Vote. We have a very special guest who happens to be a board member for Audit the Vote that we have known a really long time. But before we pull her in, I want to fly through some stuff to update you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe whatever platform you are watching us on. We are working on expanding our reach. We're on YouTube now. We tried to get on Instagram, a little bit of a snafu with that. Because Commie Book decided to hack me and sort of kind of ban Karen, but not really, but it affected our reach on Instagram. However, we are on YouTube. Don't know how long we're going to last because we need to get out of the echo chamber, reach the normies, and spread the word that our elections are anything but free and fair. And we have a ton of work to do to get them back to a place that the voters can trust. Transparent vote counting and reporting process is essential. So also, Joel reminded me, thank you. Look at that. He is just getting better by the day. Hit the like and the bell. Whatever platform you're on, make sure if there is a little bell, a little alarm, that you're hitting that so that you are notified when we go live. Because with our crazy wild schedules, which things only seem to get crazier by the minute as our kids get older, we sometimes just are going to go live last minute, depending on what is happening in the Commonwealth, what's happening nationwide, what we have to get out, and what fits our schedules. We just have a tendency to just pop on here, and we don't want you to miss it if you're able to hang with us. So hit that bell so that you can get notified that we are live and you can join us at a moment's notice, because that's just how we roll. I kind of thought, Karen, I don't know if you feel this way, but like as my kids are getting older, they're 13, 10, and 7 now. When we started this venture 4 years ago, they were subtract 4 from every one of those numbers. That's how old they were. Karen's youngest, we just talked about, I think yesterday or whatever day this is, was a baby. Graham was like 1. She had a 1-year-old when we started this. And so I thought that as they get older, this would get easier, but it's kind of not.
No, not at all.
Karen's voice is overcoming some challenges, so I'll probably do most of the talking tonight, but I've told her just chime in and interrupt me anytime that you feel you want to share something. I'm not going to call on her a whole lot, though, so her vocal cords can rest. But just know that, again, we are fighting the good fight, and the kiddos are controlling our schedule. So hit that button, hit that bell so you can join us. Hello, everybody that is maybe joining us for the first time, or someone that is a regular, maybe you haven't been following us from the beginning. Just to catch you up, we started this movement right after illegitimate Joe Biden was inaugurated as president in January 21st of 2021, because we took a Constitution Alive class together, Karen and I, through Patriot Academy, and learned just enough to be mildly dangerous. By mildly dangerous, I mean we had absolutely no clue what the political process looked like, what committees were, what the General Assembly was, how a bill got passed, but we were empowered in that class that we had to do something when we saw the election go completely awry in 2020. And so we wrote a letter in February of 2021 that eventually became a petition that we circulated. By the summer, it had over 100,000 signatures on it. And to make a long story short, our lives have never been the same. So here we are. Few things we want to throw at you guys tonight is that we are looking forward to 2025. It is oddly quiet. I think everybody that I talked to in our space that's been fighting for election integrity did not expect that we would, first of all, know the results the night of, because everything was saying it was going to take forever to count, including a lefty organization that we're going to talk about tonight called Common Cause, that we're already preparing people that election results don't come the night of. Be patient. I was expecting a knockdown, drag out battle, and I'm shocked that here we are a week and 2 days after Election Day, and Donald Trump has made cabinet appointments already for a lot of significant positions. And so it's oddly quiet on the other side, right? Like what, Karen, anything like
weird. It's weird. I think, working with Cause of America, I work with all 50 states, and I've been on 30 different state calls since the election, and everybody says the same thing. They're all like, we're cautiously optimistic, but we feel like there's still the other shoe is going to drop. Like everybody's still kind of waiting because they've been so adamant that we're threats to democracy, that we're election deniers, that we're crazy. And it's too easy.
And if you have a little bit of PTSD, you're in good company, because we do too. Because exactly, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, what's next? I thought at the very least cities would be burning if they had to declare him as the winner. And it's just bizarre. So we recognize that we have some hurdles to get through, but there's plenty of work to be done. However, we are starting to plan and look forward to 2025 and what can we do, especially in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Our fight is far from over. People that are criticizing us saying, oh yeah, Trump won, so now you guys, I guess, would say the election was fair. No, actually, we're not saying it was fair at all. We would openly welcome any type of audit, especially full forensic audit, where we get to inspect the source code on the inside of every manufacturer of every machine across the Commonwealth. We have 4 different ones, maybe 5. And we would openly welcome a hand recount of the McCormick-Casey race. So that's the first news of the day that we'll is that, of course, they found enough votes as they were canvassing a county board of elections, specifically Bucks County. They were able to break the law. County commissioners are on record actually saying out loud, the female county commissioner, Joel, I probably didn't send this to you and cue this up, so you might not have the video. If by some miracle that you do and want to play it, it's a 30-second clip that I saw on Twitter. But the female Democrat county commissioner is actually on record saying, I'm going to break this law because no one follows the law anyway, and maybe the courts will pay attention if I break the law. And so her and the other Democrat voted to count mail ballots without the proper dates, which in early, I think it was October, November, it was before the election, clearly, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania ruled that that was illegal, that you could not count mail ballots that did not have a proper date, which doesn't seem like that. Why can't we just follow the law? Why would you want to count a ballot that wasn't properly dated? It's likely that it's not a legitimate legal vote. Is it definitely not a legitimate legal vote?
Reject
No.
all 3 categories of these ballots.
Your motion is to reject or dismiss the challenges in this category in front of you?
Correct, yep.
Not going to second that, mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
Well, there you go. Democrat county commissioner. The Republican made a motion to not count the votes. And she says, absolutely not. I'm not going to second that motion because I'm going to violate the law. Isn't that great? All of that to say they were able to find enough votes to get Casey close enough to McCormick's vote totals that they're less than 0.5% away from one another, which triggers an automatic statewide recount. We learned this year that that is only valid on statewide races. So should that happen for one of our House rep seats or any other local seat, it doesn't really matter. The candidates have to petition and pay money for a recount, which I think is a little bizarre. One of the many
in jail. I don't care. You can show her this video. She belongs in jail.
Yeah, there's that. So one of the many things that we have to tackle moving forward is, why is it okay, we're 0.5% apart to trigger a statewide recount if it's statewide offices, but apparently it doesn't matter if it's school board or county commissioner or a House rep or even a state senator. Doesn't really matter. So tons and tons of work to be done. So thank you to those that are donating us, giving money to our cause and helping us fuel this fight, because it is not free and we appreciate it. If you have not yet become a regular monthly donor and you have the extra cash to do so, we ask that you go to auditthevotepA.com/donations. And I put together some fun ways that you can contribute by remembering 2020 by giving us $20.20 a month, or looking towards the future and $20.24 a month. But obviously the 4 pennies isn't going to make much of a difference, but I just thought it was kind of fun. Or we can celebrate the fact that we know 47 was also 45. You can give us $45 a month, or looking forward to 47 and a couple other things I stuck in there I just had some fun with. So keep going. Casey McCormick. So recount's going to start, I think, Friday. Is that right?
I heard either tomorrow or Monday.
Tomorrow. Today. What day is this? Today's Friday. Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah.
Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Either Friday or Monday. There is a sign up link that I'll try to find and get stick in the chat, that if you want to volunteer, they are looking for volunteers. Now, in our mind at Audit the Vote, this recount should be done by hand, because what good is it to stick these ballots through the same, I'm sorry, they'll say it's a different machine, basically because it's a different model number. Because quick example lesson on machines, ES&S is one of our vendors. It is the most widely used vendor in the state of Pennsylvania. Yes, we have some Dominion, we have some Hart InterCivic, we have some Clear Ballot, we have mostly ES&S. 2 different models of machines. A DS200 is used in the precincts, typically on election day, for you to scan your ballot into a tabulator. And then there's these fancy little things called DS850s that are usually at the centralized tabulation, where they scan the mail ballots, higher resolution. They figure those ballots are folded up, and so they need to be read differently. So they have a different model of machines. All that means is when they do a recount, if they were not mail ballots and they were put through DS200s, they're going to put them through the DS850s and vice versa. Like, that's going to make a difference. If there could be marks on these ballots that the machines won't pick up, and we won't be able to know the voter intent. So if they really wanted a transparent, honest recount, they would count these things by hand. Dave McCormick, if you're listening, something that you can push for, because it also says in our state statutes that recounts can be done. And Secretary of State Al Schmidt is on record saying this today, that recounts can be done by a different method or a different tabulation machine. When I hear method, I'm thinking that means you can touch the ballots with your hands, but heaven forbid we should ask to touch the ballots with our hands. Lord knows we've been stiff-armed every which way possible, that we've been fighting for that since 2021 when this all started. Separate topic.
Dave McCormick, call us. We're happy to help. If you really want to look at this, call us.
Yeah, or answer any of our text messages or anything that we have been. Everyone asking us, what are you doing to help McCormick? Well, he won't get back to us. So we're trying. We would be happy to help push for especially a hand recount, but also to get volunteers on the ground to volunteer for the recount effort. But he's not responding to us. So enough about that. Wasn't thrilled about him as a Senate pick anyway, but was not going to be responsible for President Trump not having control of the Senate. So held my nose and filled in the bubble. Probably can relate to some of you guys. Tag him on X, Nikki. That would be awesome. Okay, so that's McCormick and Casey updates. Our election integrity celebration. I was going to kick off with this and then got sidetracked with the news. We are going to celebrate this win, because as much as we know we have so much work to do moving forward, we do have to take some time, I think, to just just breathe, because we're working. We knew November 5th was going to be a shift in this movement, that the work wasn't over, and we had been saying that for months, but we didn't know what the shift was going to look like. And I will say I'm thankful the shift that it looks like we're heading into is one where we can go on offense. We can breathe a little bit as we work. We don't have to be putting out fires all day long, which is what the last 4 years have felt like. And so we are going to celebrate that on December 13th. If you are in and around the Pittsburgh area, or if you want to travel in, we're going to celebrate with Catherine Engelbrecht from True the Vote is our keynote speaker, working on getting some other really cool things in place. We're having our first steering committee meeting this weekend to start planning the event. We'll get exact location, exact time, all the nitty gritty things. If you can bring a dish, you don't have to, but if you can bring a side dish or a dessert or something, you can RSVP and sign up to do it there. We'll provide hors d'oeuvres, and it's really just going to be a incredible evening of fellowship and celebration for everybody that worked so hard over the last 4 years, especially those who have been on the ground with us actively, without a paycheck, without any accolades, without any national recognition. They've just been working on the ground in their county relentlessly for 4 years. And I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that that contributed to stopping enough of the cheating that President Trump could have in an election that was too big to rig and could get him over the finish line. So join us on December 13th. I think the RSVP, you can scan the QR code. Oh, Joel, look, I said it instead of click the QR code. I actually said scan the QR code, something he gets on me when we're doing videos. Scan that QR code, RSVP. Would love to have you. The reason we're getting the RSVP is because we want to see how big of a venue that we should be booking. I know we're going to get at least 100 people. One of our generous donors, Rob McKinney, reached out today and offered his beautiful place that he has a winery, wine cellar, and a beautiful winery. I went to a event that he put in last summer and offered graciously his place to have it, but unfortunately it only sees 50 people, and I know we're going to blow through 100, maybe even get 200 to 300 people depending. So if you know that you're available and you can come, please RSVP now so we can get the proper size venue and have a blast. Looking forward to seeing many of you. All right, EI celebration. Chucking down through my list because I can't wait to get to our special guest. We're going to expose some shocking shenanigans. Although I don't know why I'm shocked, because these people are ruthless. The deep state, the left, whatever you want to call them, they never stop. Evil never sleeps. And the more stuff we uncover, I really shouldn't be surprised, but yet I find myself shocked on a daily basis. 2025, we are not slowing down. I know that the presidential election, more eyeballs were on this than they were over the entire 4-year period of time, which, Karen, do you remember when Representative Russ Diamond told us there was an election every 6 months? And we were like, what? Why? What are they doing every 6 months that we need to be showing up at the polls? We didn't learn that until 2021, because these off-year elections affect our daily lives more than the presidential elections do. And so part of what we want to do at Audit the Vote is educate people on that fact and get them involved locally, voting every 6 months, becoming, if you weren't a super voter like we were not before 2020, become a super voter, pay attention to what's going on in your backyard. It's how we lost the republic in the first place. Thank God he granted us some mercy, and we are clawing and scratching our way back to saving the republic. And I think we have a way better chance today than I did a week and a half ago, but it's going to take some work at the local level. And in 2025, there's a couple big things that we're going to pay attention to that are up that Audit the Vote is going to try to actively get involved in. Is one, our judges of elections, who are the boss of the polling locations. So when you went and voted on November 5th, there was somebody that was actually in charge of your polling station. So if someone does try some hanky-panky, or a machine breaks, or there's not enough ballots, or whatever, name your issue, there is someone in charge that starts making phone calls to get that issue resolved. And that person is called the judge of elections. Those are elected positions. Then there's a second person in command that's kind of their assistant that's called the majority inspector. In a perfect world, they're supposed to be a Republican and a Democrat, opposite parties in each one of those positions. But they are elected, and they are up for re-election in 2025. So you bet your butt we're going to be looking at some of the more vulnerable places where we know there were shenanigans and see if we can get good, honest patriots. Doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green Party, don't care. But if you care about transparency and honest and free and fair elections, we want you to be running your polling location. So we'll be working very hard on that, as well as how did we lose Pennsylvania control of the Supreme Court? It is no mystery that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is incredibly biased, very left-wing majority there. They legislate from the bench all day long, highly contributed to the 2020 steal, or them being able to get away with the 2020 steal due to the makeup of the Supreme Court. However, in 2025, we can vote to not retain 3 of the Supreme Court judges that have been there since 2015. So if you really start digging into the history of Pennsylvania politics, you'll find out that we started losing control in 2015 when our Supreme Court flipped to a more liberal, left-leaning, not necessarily following the Constitution judges, more their agenda in legislating from the bench than what we had prior to 2015. So in 2025, we have the opportunity to decide if we want to get rid of those people, which I highly recommend voting no on the retention of those 3 judges. Lord only knows how they're going to spin the ballot question. You would think it's a pretty simple ask of should you retain or not retain. But what we've seen them do is anytime that the good side starts to get traction on these things and feel like they're going to come out to vote, they try to twist the words in the language to cause confusion so that they can get things to go the direction they want. I have no doubt Governor Shapiro and his henchmen are going to try to do something along those lines if it's within the law and possible. But just know that those retention judges, 3 positions up for retention, we need to vote no. And if we get them kicked out, there will be special elections in 2027. We will get to 3 new Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, by the way, not U.S. Supreme Court, Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. We will get to elect 3 new judges. And that puts us in a position to flip the court back to constitutionalists who will actually rule according to the law, not according to the whims or the lobbyists or whatever the heck is controlling these dishonest buggers. So that is 2025 is going to be a very important shift changing year for us in the state of Pennsylvania and probably nationwide as well. But Pennsylvania is our specialty. So before I bring on our special guest, Karen, is there anything you would like to chime in with that I missed? And then we're going to go bring in Laura Veno.
So I don't know if you saw Senator John Fetterman today. Did you see his comment about Trump?
I didn't. I watched his Rogan interview. I don't know what to think.
So it's very interesting, but his comment, basically, he said that, like, I don't remember his exact verbiage, but he's like, he's trolling all the liberals. Like, it's the craziest thing. I don't know when he went into that hospital what happened, but he literally was like, yeah, Trump's doing this God level thing and he's trolling all the libs. I was like, where did you come from? And can the real John Fetterman please stand up? I'm so confused.
Oh, we're conspiracy theorists if we think for like 2 seconds that he might not be who he appears to be. But
I don't know. Something has changed, but we'll keep an eye on him. I just thought that was really funny that and apparently he's also like going against Pelosi. He said today that he thinks it's time for Pelosi to hang it up and some younger blood to come in. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So keep an eye on that one. That's, I don't know, a dark horse. I don't know what's going on.
I would describe it as God tier level trolling to just trigger a full-on China syndrome to own the libs in perpetuity.
Wow. Wow. Karen, Nikki's saying throat coat tea. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
I did just stick the volunteer request form in the chat. So look for that under Audit the Vote. And if you can volunteer for the recount, hopefully you'll get a call back. Karen said she volunteered and didn't hear anything. Oh, thank you, Joel, for sticking that up there. I'm going to little background on our special guest. Laura Veno and I have been friends for a really long time. We've done different entrepreneurial business ventures together over the years. Laura is a former liberal. I'll let her decide how she wants to frame that, if she wants to share any of her background or not. But the main reason we're bringing her on tonight is because she was a poll watcher for us back in 2022. Joel, you can go ahead and bring her in while I'm telling all these stories. She decided to volunteer her time, poll watch for us in the midterm elections. She was a fan of Senator Mastriano, wanted to see him as governor, wanted a fair election. She was kicked out of her polling location where she lives in Northampton County, not allowed to watch the closing of the polls. And unfortunately, we were not versed enough on the legal process to prosecute that or file a lawsuit, which we should have. By the time we did, I think the statute of limitations, we had gone too long, basically. But Laura is firsthand saw that she was kicked out of the polling location with a certified poll watcher certificate and told, you cannot watch us close the polls. So she decided to volunteer her time yet again this election cycle. And the stuff that her husband, that she and her husband have uncovered is going to blow your mind just a little bit. And so first of all, Laura, if you want to share a little bit of your background, because I know your first election, did you ever vote for a Dem as president?
I never voted for any. I did what I think all young people do. I think I either shared this with you the other day or my husband and I were talking about it, but we were kind of joking about all of the on-stage performers at all of the Harris rallies, right? And like it was Beyonce and all of these people. I don't even know who they all are today. But I went to my very first political rally, which was for John Kerry. And it was only because Ben Affleck was going to be there.
Yes. We're reformed.
Yeah, that was it. That was my big reasoning. I knew nothing of I was in high school at the time. So by the time I was legally old enough to vote, I had that all out of my system. I've never officially voted Democrat or anything like that. But my first official political rally was for John Kerry.
So, and anybody that knows her husband, Irv, he would never have married a liberal woman. So she had definitely switched by then. I think you were 19 when I met you. I don't know how old you were by the time you and Karen met, but you were definitely much younger. It's good to hear that you didn't actually pull the trigger for a Dem, because I know our mutual friend, Tristan Gazelle, I was just talking to him today. I had a couple calls with him, work calls for Patriot Academy, and he did vote for John Kerry. That was his first presidential pick. And he's open about
I'll never.
He's from California, so cut him a little slack. Lives in Texas now, but originally from California. So what are you gonna do?
Yes. I'll never forget the first time that my husband and I, not dating as friends, had a political conversation. It was over the movie Fahrenheit 9/11, and we were on both different sides of what that was, and I think after that, ever since that conversation, I've been on the good side.
So I want her to tell the story. Her husband ends up stumbling. She wants to be a poll watcher for us again. So she took my election day specifics training that I put together for the Audit the Vote on the Audit the Vote website. Her husband somehow stumbled into what appears to be a very left-leaning, run by the NAACP, shady, misguided election protection, not really poll watchers, but we're going to help voters. Talk to us about how that came about and what you guys discovered from him going through that.
Right. So it's actually, it's kind of odd. We thought it was a joke at first. I was texting Karen that day because I thought it was hysterical that this happened. And then lo and behold, it was funny. The background of it is that morning had taken my official RNC virtual training. And I was in the kitchen. My husband was on one side of the kitchen listening in. Well, he was upset that I had not registered him for his training. So I said, okay, I will, I'll jump online and see if I can still squeeze you in a class. So I quickly jumped online, typed in Protect the Vote, poll watcher training, clicked the first link that came up, signed him up, and the class was going to start in like an hour. I was like, this is awesome. You can still get in time.
He's a little competitive, sure, Laura. Would you say Irv is a little competitive? Just a little?
Oh, very much so. Well, right. Because he was, he was upset that I was doing it and he wasn't. He had that whole like fear of missing out thing going on. And so, he jumped on his call. And it was so funny because, mine was by the RNC. It was all extremely official. The opening slides was talking about if you're from the press, you need to leave. You're not welcome here, and all of that stuff. It's very official. His call started 10 minutes late to a guy jumping on saying, hey, yo guys, sorry, my bus was late. I'm sorry I'm late. I got to go change real quick. I'll be back in 5 minutes. We joked because he said, well, it looks like I didn't get the same person you did. And we joked about like how funny the difference was. I was like, I got a better presenter than you did. However, once that class started, within about 5 minutes, I realized we were not on the same call. I was still in the room. He was watching his call, and I realized very quickly that this was not the same thing. And I started Google searching. I think I texted maybe both of you ladies to find out. I don't think I'm on the. I felt like, an older person not knowing technology. I'm like, I think I clicked on the wrong thing. And
Well,
so,
throw up the Zoom because she has the slide. Here's the thing. They went the whole way through it. She has the slide presentation. As she's talking, go through some of this. So yeah, here it is. Go
sure.
ahead, Laura.
Well, and so, yeah, that's this. I mean, yeah, you could kind of skip through some of these slides here, but those were just their opening slides and whatnot for training. But yeah, so this one here is where I first realized we're on the wrong thing, because they started talking about, if you can just scroll back, Joel, to that last slide, the one that goes through all the 4 different, yeah, that one right there. They started talking about poll monitoring. And that's when I realized, I was like, wait a second, I've taken these trainings before. I don't know what a poll monitor is. And at first I thought maybe that's just what they're calling poll watching. So I thought, we'll just keep watching. Like, let's just see what happens. We still weren't 100% sure that we were in the wrong place. And so he started explaining the difference between those things, between poll monitoring and poll watching and poll workers. And he basically explained that the difference between poll monitors and poll watchers is that poll monitors were nonpartisan. So they didn't have to have any type of credentials or certifications. They could do a lot of the same things that poll watchers did. They just couldn't. They weren't tied to either party, so they didn't need certifications. So they very quickly, breezed through. We're not going to talk a whole lot about what poll watchers do, but here's what we're there to do. And honestly,
let me interject.
Oh yeah, go ahead, right ahead.
A second for this. So election protection hotline, which eventually, Joel, I want you to go back to the first slide so we can see Common Cause Pennsylvania. If you do a quick Google search, you will find out that this is directly tied to the NAACP. And it's funny, we're going to show a Facebook video where they're very careful not to say it that way, NAA. They'll say NAACP. They probably know NAACP has a I don't know what you want to call it, a moniker associated with it. You kind of know who the heck they are. But look at this, Pennsylvania election protection for 2024 general election. And yes, they've done this before. It is nationwide, but this is Pennsylvania. So keep going, Joel, to the multiple different languages. So by the way, in order to become a legal citizen, so if you immigrate here legally, like many of our grandparents did, and you have to go through the process of understanding our history to become an official US citizen, which you have to be in order to vote legally in Pennsylvania, you have to speak English. So why are we offering all of these voter services in multiple languages? Just pointing that out. Laura, keep going.
Oh, no, that's fine. And one thing I did want to bring up, Tony, on this line right here, after you and I talked about how strange this was, how it didn't all add up to us, I did look up that phone number, 866-OUR-VOTE. There's a handful of organizations who were all using the exact same command center, as they call it. And the NAACP was one for sure. So if you go to their site, their Facebook page, they're advertising the same phone number. They're after that conference call was over, they were telling everybody on the conference call, you need to have your badge. I know we'll get into that on the call tonight, but they kept talking about you need a badge and you need a t-shirt. And they said, in order to pick those up in Philadelphia, you're going to go to this place. In Pittsburgh, you're going to go to this place. Well, they emailed out the address to the Pittsburgh location afterwards, and it's an organization called the Black Political Empowerment Project. And they shared the exact same phone number. So all of these organizations are all somehow tied to the same thing. They have the same name. They're all poll monitors. They're all election protection officers. They each did their own trainings. They have their own organizations, but they all seem to be acting together.
Okay, so what the fudge? I know, unbelievable.
It looks like the ACLU is using the same one too.
Interesting.
Did we uncover some interesting stuff? Just a tad. I don't know why is it blurry for you? Oh no, it comes into focus eventually. Okay, so go back a little bit, Joel. Number one, by the way, it's so slick how they do this, because poll watchers, if you are a certified poll watcher, you are instructed, it is in the law, you are not allowed to talk to voters. You are not allowed to talk to voters. However, these folks market themselves nonpartisan. They're purposely, I think it looks like, not certified poll watchers so that they can get around some of this stuff. But man, are they skirting the line, because they talk to voters all day long. Laura saw them talking to voters. But since they're not official poll watchers, I guess that in and of itself does not break the law directly, but they're actually told through this training, you are there to help voters. My question is, do what? You're there to help voters do what? You can also, by the way, have assistance. So they say they're there to assist voters. But if any of these people were inside a polling location, by the way, assisting a voter without documentation that the voter fills out, giving them the authority to assist them, that is breaking the law. So one of the reasons we wanted to do this live stream is if you saw anybody, we're going to show you what their little badge looked like, because in Pittsburgh we found people with these voter protection lanyards on, which if it was in any way connected to these guys, we will get to the bottom of that and start filing a lawsuit ASAP. But we're still digging around to figure out if they're for sure connected, if we can prove they were connected, because I have pictures of people with voter protection lanyards on inside polling locations. So we can definitely prove that they were in there. We just don't know how this is all connected just yet. That's where you come in. If you saw anybody with what we're going to show you on that day inside a poll, or helping a voter without a form, the voter needs to fill out a form and say, I need assistance. I've designated this individual to assist me, and that gets kept on record, on file. If they didn't have that, they broke the law. I know, shocker, because we just saw a Democrat commissioner.
Tony, I'm going to interrupt for a minute. I just sent Joel in the private chat. I just sent him a link. Joel, if you could bring that up. There's an X page. It's called Lawyers Committee, and it's 866 Our Vote. And it is the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law.
See, that this is how we lost the republic, folks. We were checked out Americans. My friend Joey Lynn Masaros from Texas, checked out Americans. We were not paying attention to any of this stuff in 2020, which is why they were able to pull out the rug out from under us and not just steal a presidential election, but get away with it for 4 years. No more. Absolutely not.
Making the promises of democracy real.
Of democracy. Do these people probably, bless their heart, don't even know that we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic? Go to patriotacademy.com, sign up to take a class, and learn what your real, inalienable, given from God rights are, not whatever these people frame them as rights that come from pigs and animals in the land and whatever else they call it. You know what? TLC teacher question, is it legal to take pics inside the polling location? According to these guys, it is. It says it in their training as I went through.
Right.
But that's another gray area. Laura, keep sharing with us your experience.
Oh, sure. And I mean, there's so many things, Tony, but they opened up the call and basically said they have all these volunteers, and they said, okay, so why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? That to me was a little bit muddled, because it almost sounded as though they were suggesting the same thing we do as poll watchers, right? So they were saying, you're there to make sure the election process goes smoothly. So we're going to teach you today when people would need a provisional ballot, when they shouldn't, what you should do if someone gets there and they're not in the poll book and they say that they are. Here's who you're going to call. And I mean, they were really, I mean, this training was an hour and a half long. It wasn't like a quick 30-minute training. But my question is, what, and I don't understand this, how would anyone know if they weren't allowed inside the polling location? Why are they telling people that they should be checking poll books and that they should be? I don't understand how they were to know this information if they weren't allowed within 10 feet of the door.
Exactly. So the stuff that they were trained to quote unquote catch. And I love that one on the green slide, Joel, that said, stay with the voter. Like, these people preach voter intimidation. They try to say conservatives in our side. I would just say common sense. We're not even conservatives. We're common sense, rational human beings. These lefties are lunatics. But like, assist voters, where did it say? No, I'm sorry. There was a list, Joel. It was all green. It said, keep the voter with you. They accuse us of voter intimidation. And then, Laura, I want you to tell that story too about, there it is, right there. Keep the voter with you if you can. Is that not intimidation? basically keep the person with you, offer solutions to what the challenges that they train these people on. You have to be inside the polling location to catch. So, okay, on the off chance that someone had an issue, they were turned away from the poll without being offered a provisional ballot, which they never should be. But let's say they were, and these people are outside the door, it sounds like 10 feet away, waiting to pounce on someone that had an issue. Maybe that's one way you can legitimately help a voter so that they can cast a ballot legally. It doesn't sound like, based on the training that you went through, Laura, that that's what they were doing. So keep going.
No. And so even going back to that voter intimidation piece, Tony, when they started the call and they were talking about, like, why are we doing this? What's your role? We're going to talk about how you do what you do, but first we're going to talk about why we need you as volunteers. They brought up this slide that was a billboard, and apparently, I think, what did I tell you? It was from like 2012 from Ohio. This is basically like their basis for this was about, and I apologize, there were two different slide decks on their website. One was from the primary election, one was from the general election. I don't know if the billboard is in this one or not. So Joel, if you're looking for it, that might be why. It might be in the other slide deck. But the billboard was basically just a billboard picture that said, like, voter fraud is a felony. And it talked about what the penalties for voter fraud is. So it said, 3.5 years in prison or a $10,000 fine. And it's a picture of a gavel. And apparently these billboards were up back in 2012 in Ohio.
Leave this up. Joel, leave that disability one up while she's talking. Go ahead.
Go right ahead. So he put that billboard up as the reason for the training, saying voter intimidation is real. It's we should be out in the parking lots, out on the sidewalks, asking people walking around, have you voted today? Can I help you vote? Do you need to know where your polling location is? You're supposed to be there. Almost, he didn't use the word recruiting, but what he was describing was recruiting people to go vote. I think that's also interesting when he said that later, watching that NAACP video with why they brought those people to Philadelphia. And so anyway, that billboard, though, my husband watching the webinar or the training had said, why on earth is that voter intimidation? It's not saying, it's just saying that voter fraud is a felony. What about that is voter intimidation? It's just a simple statement. And the gentleman refused to answer his question, but he alluded later in the training. He clearly read the question, but he alluded later in the training to the fact that the types of neighborhoods that these billboards were put up in would cause certain people to feel like maybe I shouldn't vote because if I do it wrong, I could be in jail or be fined. So that was kind of, that was their basis of voter fraud, voter intimidation. But what I found also interesting, and I'll let you run then on that other slide, but on their website, on their Facebook page, they spent weeks before the election going
Joel,
into
I'm getting
prisons.
Stick with a slide.
They spent weeks before the election going into prisons and filling out mail-in ballot requests with prisoners so that they could all vote. So it's the whole crime thing and voter intimidation. And I was just, it was interesting to me.
Did you see that one slide where it said take selfies? Did you see that?
Yes. They're not even a little bit. Yeah. They're not even a little bit ashamed. So what it looks like to me, there it is. Voter fraud is a felony. Yeah. There it is. What it looks like they might be doing to me is staking out these places, looking for somebody who might have some sort of disability and then attaching themselves to that voter so that they can control how they vote. But this saying voter fraud is a felony is voter intimidation. These people have no bounds. It blows my mind how they can justify that what they're doing is right. So they're taking advantage potentially of our most vulnerable voters, our handicapped, disabled people, by trying to help them vote. But in all reality, are you? Or are you preying on the most vulnerable people in our society?
Well,
this should make everybody sick to their
stomach. They're talking about race and how it has a disproportionate impact on communities of color. Like, really? We have to bring race into voting?
I was going to say, and we're the racists. Why is reporting voters' race important? You're telling them to report the voters' race, but we're the racist ones.
They discussed that on the training as well. And what they had said, and what the gentleman had said about this, was that by taking down as many notes as you can and reporting as many issues as you can, because people of color are more likely to undergo voter intimidation than other people are. He said by taking down all of that information, they can change laws in the future around voting based upon these things. And they kept talking about legislation. We can push forth legislation for things that are suppressing voters in these neighborhoods.
We're not going back, but we want to make legislation based on color.
Yes.
Okay. Cue up the video, the Facebook video, because, oh, by the way, this gets better. Bonus, we have these people on video admitting they don't even live in Pennsylvania. So if any of them, and then
all right, we're live again, back at the command center. We got more of the Howard University students coming back in from being out on the polls. Yes, so right here. Go ahead. How was your experience? Say your name and where you from.
My name is Zach St. Hubert. I'm from New York. I attend Howard University School of Law. And this is really a fulfilling experience. It's great to be a part of this in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where all eyes, essentially across the country on Pennsylvania. Glad to be a part of this effort. It was very encouraging to see all the different people that came out to vote for the first time, and just seeing everyone mobilized and concentrated on exercising their civic duties and responsibilities. So it's a pleasure in Philadelphia. Thank you for welcoming us, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Great. Next, so how was your experience? Name and
heart. Pray for these people. Honestly, he speaks
about law. Howard University School of Law. So the dude isn't stupid.
No, and he's probably getting indoctrinated at this university, and he thinks he's doing the right thing. Oh my gosh! Look at this sweetheart. Watch her. They're manipulating young people. Listen to this.
And where you from?
Hello, my name is Amaya Thomas. I'm 23 and I'm from Florida. I'm a 3-year student at Howard University School of Law. I had a great experience. I felt like it was really good to get out in the community and to vote. It's a very important day, a very important election. And so we want, vote for who's going to keep your rights in their mind as they're making a decision. And I feel like we were very much black here by the NAACP.
NAACP.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great. And now, our leader.
I'm Samuel Rhymes. I'm a 3L at Howard University School of Law.
Yes.
We were just out in the field, and I can say that we left it all on the field. We did a lot of work. We helped people find their polling place. We helped them deal with kind of ballot issues, and I think that the most important piece of the work that we did was kind of influencing people to use their right to vote. Nonpartisan and NAACP, but use their right to vote. And I think people in the community know that their voice is their vote and their vote is their voice. So this is really important to us, and I'm so glad that we were able to kind of get back in the field. This is my second time doing this. This is important work. We love Philly, and we love Pennsylvania, so this is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm partisan. My name is Jeannie. I'm from Philly. I was really excited to get to volunteer out in the field at a location that was closed today, but we helped direct people to their correct location, which is one of 3 different places. So a lot of people showed up anyway.
Everything's okay. You got here.
I was glad to be out there and help get people to where they needed to be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. We're still here. Everybody's still working while the polls are
white woman. Hey, okay.
About to close. And yet, still have students coming in. This is the Philadelphia branch, NAACP.
All right. NAACP.
Command Center, Voter Protection Command Center.
Vote writers. The table said vote writers.
You know what breaks my heart? This is why I'm not really plugging Patriot. This is why what we do at Patriot Academy is so important. You can tell those kids they're with it. They're literally, in my opinion, spiritually blinded and being manipulated and taken advantage of by our liberal universities and being indoctrinated by the media and whatever else. And it's up to us to change that, to hopefully let them see the light where they can get exposed to the real principles of liberty and our true history. They're probably being taught that America, you know, the 1619 Project, they have no idea that Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood, by the way, another movie to counter the 1619 Project, flip those numbers around, by Seth Gruber, called the 1916 Project, that goes through the truth of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, the fact that it was meant to prey on the Black community because Margaret Sanger was incredibly racist and thought they needed to be eliminated from society, and did so by starting this massive abortion push through Planned Parenthood. It's disgusting. And if young folks like that, if we can get them to see the truth, they can be potentially their eyes open to the principles of liberty and join the cause of saving the republic.
Look, I'm gonna give them credit. At least they are trying to get people to vote, right?
Karen, that's good.
I'm gonna
like the spin. I like the spin. Silver lining. Yes, they're trying to get people. That's the least partisan thing I saw from all of it. And they're so well spoken. Like they're good. They look like good people.
They look very, very intelligent young men and women. Very much
good people. We got to reach these. Oh my gosh, we got to reach these people. Someone is in the chat asking about the link for the hand count, to volunteer for the hand count. It is not on the Audit the Vote website. But I'll find it, Nikki, and stick it. Oh, there you go. It's right there. Stick it in the chat. Laura, what else do we have to talk about here? That video is.
And I guess I know the videos, and I mean that even brings up more questions. Like the gentleman in the yellow T-shirt had said we were helping people with ballot issues. My question is, under what authority? Under what authority are you helping people with ballot issues? You have no certification, no credentials. Who are you? Right? Like, how were they helping people with ballot issues? That seems like across the line to me, right? Like that's. I understand going out and helping people get to their proper locations off the streets. If you're going to go out and, you know, pull people out of their homes to go vote, or, you know, out of a parking lot or whatever. But when it comes to specific, like that to me spews election interference, right? Like when you're helping people with ballot issues under no credentialed position, right?
Joel, pull up and I want people to see what this looked like, because what we're trying to get to the bottom of are these voter protection lanyards that we saw on the eastern or western side of the state. Laura lives in Northampton County on the eastern side of the state. Are they the same? And so here's what, listen, if you on election day saw anybody with that printed out, like on a badge or on their t-shirt or anything like that inside a polling location, please reach out to us on our website and give us as many details about it as possible. What polling location you were at, the time of day, what you saw them doing. Were they interacting with voters? Were they helping them fill out ballots? All the details you can possibly remember. Please let us know, because we've got to get to the bottom of this stuff so we can stop the cheating.
Even
Nikki's
better to have picture or video.
Better yet, thank you, Karen. Smart. If you have picture or video, better yet. But that's what you're looking for, because if we can bridge the gap, if this is the same as the folks with the voter protection lanyards that were in our polling locations in Pennsylvania that we have well documented, we might have a very significant lawsuit against the NAACP, because they're literally flipping everything that they say they're for. They're completely violating themselves. This is madness to me. Like, at least we're Audit the Vote is a 501c4, just like whatever the heck that common cause thing says, nonpartisan. Okay. But we went through the proper channels to get people credentialed poll watcher certificates, some from the RNC, some from the Libertarian Party, because the RNC wasn't real cooperative. So we're working on how to figure out how to do that moving forward. So we were truly nonpartisan because we had people with different parties credentialing them. And not talking to voters, following the law, doing everything that is legal and lawful inside the polling location. Meanwhile, these people are running all over the city, pulling people from out of state to help affect Pennsylvania's elections. This is just blows my mind. Blows my mind. Nikki, you need to, if she was in your polling location, you need to get us all the details on it so we can get a list of all of this compiled. We know they were all over the state even before election day. They were in Bucks County during the early voting. Scott Pressler has that well documented. We know that they dropped off busloads of people in those voter protection lanyards in South Park area of Pittsburgh. People who did not speak English got off of a bus and had mail ballot applications pre-filled out. They jumped the line, went forward into what was designated as a satellite office, and Lord only knows what happened from there. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, folks. Do not get hoodwinked by thinking, oh, President Trump got elected, we're good. No, we're not. We're nowhere near good. There's a ton of work to be done. And I can't thank both of you ladies, but Laura, thank you. Laura is a board member. I think you're the secretary. We should probably know that. Is that right?
I don't have an official position, but I do take notes from time to time.
You do take notes. So we had a vacancy on our board, and Laura graciously stepped up and said, I will absolutely serve because I support your cause. And so just thank you very much for being willing to donate your time and your talents. Because as you can see, she's, has a brain. Her and her husband were able to figure out, like, this doesn't look right. They dug in. Only Irv, my husband, by the way, we all do know each other really well. We go way back. When I told Shoop Laura that Irv was the one that stumbled on this training, he just started to laugh and goes, of course it's Irv. Why not?
Right, for sure. Yes, but I will also add that we did have one of these election protection. I ended up doing poll greeting that day at a location that our local GOP assigned me to, and we had an election protection person at our location, and she walked around policing us. She measured to make sure we were 10 feet from the door. She had a checklist. She wanted to make sure we were in the appropriate attire. She took photos of us and our signs. She told some people that were there, just not as party specific poll greeters, but for one particular candidate, she told them that they weren't allowed to speak to voters. She was the hard thing about it is I had a little bit of knowledge of this coming because just a few days before I had stumbled on this training. But for the other people around who were official election volunteers, they were like, wait, does this person work for the election? Like, what? They seemed to have a level of authority that they didn't have. And I think that that's what these badges and matching shirts were supposed to make them look like authoritarian figures. And I think that's wrong. I just think the coordinated effort, it's deceptive, right? Like, they're talking about having these fair elections without voter intimidation, and yet they came in under a guise of being something that they weren't. And so I had said to the other girls that I was working with as a poll greeter that day, that person has no authority. Don't allow her to tell you anything. She has no credentials, no certification. She's just
And
here
where was
to
she
watch
sitting?
and take pictures.
Laura, where was she sitting?
Oh, closer, like right next to the door, in her chair.
But you
on
had
her
to be
phone
10
all
feet
day.
away.
Yep. I
Oh,
offered an elderly gentleman with a cane in line who was stumbling at my location. There was about an hour and a half to an hour and 45-minute wait to vote, and I offered an elderly gentleman in the line my chair just to sit in line as opposed to standing, and she took my picture doing so, like as if I was doing something wrong. They're supposed to be there to help voters. That's what they're for.
Right.
But yep, she was there to police what I was doing with the voters more so than anything else.
It's funny you say that, Laura, because when I was poll greeting, we had a guy walk in who was limping. And I asked, to get into my polling location, you have to go down like 10 steps. And the railing, like the concrete was starting to break off. So it was like wiggly. And I asked if he needed help, and he said no. And I found out later, this is interesting. I found out later the guy is doing construction literally 2 miles away at in New Kensington. And he was wearing a Trump hat, and he was walking to his car, and some lady drove by him and started cussing at him because of his hat. And he said some smart remark, and she backed into him with her car. That's why he was limping.
Oh my gosh.
She literally hit him with her car. So there was like this whole ordeal. And, I don't know if they ended up filing a police report, but you could tell like the dude was hurting. And I'm like, do you need help getting down the stairs? And I was the only person there greeting, but I was, like, I want to be careful because I don't want to, I don't want to break any laws, but the dude is like, literally, you could tell he was hurting. And he was like, no, I'm good. Thank you. But I can only imagine if we had one of those at my polling location, what they would have said. Oh, you can't do that? Like, come on.
TLC teacher, are these people the same as the other reported folks with lanyards? We're not sure. That's what we have to get to the bottom of. I suspect they are, but we have to get to the bottom of that, because they were the electioneering violation that we found in Allegheny County that I think definitely sent a shockwave through this operation, because they were told to take their lanyards off about 30 minutes after we reported this, because one of these ever so brave souls decided to go into the polling location, shake hands with all of the clerks, and then proceed to say, and everybody here is voting Democrat, right? And that's like major violation of law. It's called electioneering. You cannot do that. So because those of you that support us and have helped fund our efforts thus far, we were able to get poll watchers all over the city of Pittsburgh. And when that was reported to us, within 30 minutes, we sent it up the chain and they were told to take the lanyards off. And so that tells me that something is awry. It makes sense to me now why they were told to take the lanyards off, because they looked official. If they were inside polling locations with those lanyards on, knowing they weren't officially certified poll watchers, meaning not legally authorized to be there, that's why they wanted them to take those lanyards off. Because if they were inside the polling locations, that is also breaking the law. So that's why we're trying to figure out, were those the same people? Because again, like some of you guys are saying in the comments, they were all over the place, inside polling locations, talking to voters, breaking the law every which way they possibly could, if that was in fact the same. And I know the lanyards look different, but like we were pointing out earlier, the phone number, Laura, oh my gosh, what is the fix to all this? I could talk for days. The fix to all of this is what you're seeing tonight. Laura was just like us, not politically active, maybe not as checked out. Laura, I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you weren't as checked out as we were, but she wasn't super active. I can remember being on the phone with you when COVID started, and you and I were both like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So we kind of sort of maybe woke up around the same time, and just getting involved. She didn't have to overhaul her life the way Karen and I did, but she just got involved in her community. Her and her husband, they're on the school board for her kids' school that is a hybrid version similar to how Karen and I homeschool our kids. And she said in 2022, hey, can I help? I can be a poll watcher for the day. And that she got kicked out of the polls, and it started this whole journey. Again, not taking over her entire life, but just doing a little bit in her community. And that's how we stop this stuff. And look at all this, stumbled on the phone number and find it out it's connected to 3 different organizations that appear to be separate. But it's kind of funny. They're all using the same hotline to report.
Three that we know of. Could be
at
more.
least 3. So we got to figure out if that voter protection hotline, if it's connected, which again, I suspect it is, but we can't prove it yet. We will look at it. Laura, give us a little, as we close out, we're over an hour. Tell us a little bit about your political involvement pre-2020, or just how things have changed. Because I don't want to assume that you were dead asleep like I was. But certainly things have changed.
Yeah, I was pretty asleep just because I trusted the system. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think that I assumed that when we went and voted, I guess it never hit me until 2020 that how screwed up this thing was. I had no idea. And then obviously following you guys and just I trust you guys. I've known you for a long time, and I've come to ask you guys, like, Tony, when I see something, I'm like, Tony, is this crazy? Is this true? Like, should I be following this? Is this real? And
because your mom is down every rabbit hole, right? Like everything.
Oh, yes, for sure. She's if I want to hear about it first, I go to her for sure. She knows before anyone else. But yeah, so I would say I was checked out. I voted, but maybe not necessarily in school board elections and little things like that. I just didn't know how much it mattered. And so yeah, over these last 4 years, just seeing that everything matters. It all matters. And yeah, so that's my background. And then today, again, I'd like to be involved at any level that we can that makes sense. But I just think, like you said, everybody can do what I did, right? Like I'm not doing anything. I can call and ask you guys questions. I don't have to be an expert at all of these things. It's just I attend a GOP meeting here and there locally in my local, in my location, and see how I can volunteer there, or I'm not committing a whole bunch of time or anything like that, but it's on my mind. I mean, I want what's best for America too, right? And so yeah, it's on my mind, it's on my heart. And so any way I can help with the time that I have available, that's what I want to do.
Awesome. This is how we save the Republic right here. Joel, if you screenshot of, I just want to show, and then we'll wrap up the donation, just the fun. I'd like to get the viewers' opinions. I thought this was really fun, but then again, my brain is like a party all day long. So I might think something is fun that other people are like, this is stupid. I would like some feedback if you think that this is clever. Does it make you want to support the cause? Does it make you want to get out your wallet and give to us? Because Lord knows we do need funding to keep going. And I bring this up now because there it is. Because Laura, not only does she serve on our board and do what she can in her community around election time and with GOPs, one of our board meetings, she said, how can I support you guys? And I said, honestly, we need monthly support. And so she became a monthly donor. And I think you guys are given a considerable amount on a monthly basis. So thank you for that. But this is something fun that I put together. $5, every bit counts. $10, double down. 2020, the steal. 2024, the comeback. 45, never forget he was president. 45, and the future 47. And then this was a bunch of other stuff I was just trying. Oh, I'm going to do a t-shirt. What do you guys think about a t-shirt that says mega, make elections great again? Mega, make elections great again. Or you can put a custom amount. You don't have to do a regular. If you can only just do a one-time donation, we'll take all the help we can get. We appreciate every little bit does add up and it does count. But I'd love to know what you think of this. And please be honest. If you think it was stupid, tell me. And I'll just go back to our standard, whatever the heck we had up there before. Always welcome and open to constructive feedback, because we're learning one step at a time how nonprofits work and how to make them successful to our end of restoring confidence and transparency and trust in the vote counting and vote reporting process. You missed those Sleepy Joe billboards, Nikki. Always on your mind. Let's roll. Yes, let's roll. Absolutely. So, oh, and Joel just sticks in there. Is that going on your credit card? Is that 350 million? Or why is there so many zeros?
350,000.
Oh, I see the decimal points. That's 350. Oh, see Joel's, It's a funny play, because I sent out some proposals before the election trying to get funding for what I thought was going to be a massive poll watcher effort, still significant. And Joel and I, $350,000 was one of the proposals that I sent out. So that was, yes, if you happen to have an extra $500,000 laying around, we'll take that too.
Tony, I do have one more thing to mention. I totally forgot to mention this. So Win for Integrity in Pennsylvania, Representative David Rowe, who is the vice chair of the Pennsylvania Freedom Caucus, got selected by the Republican caucus to now serve as the Republican policy chair for 25 to 26. So that is a huge win for integrity in Pennsylvania, that we have the vice chair of the Freedom Caucus that is now in a leadership position. So you guys should be really excited about that, because I sure am.
Awesome. Want to share in the thank you, Laura, for sending that in the private chat. Some people mentioned that the election protection people wore bright yellow vests as well. So if you saw anybody in a bright yellow vest, just be thinking about that as well. When I hear bright yellow, I don't know why I think the garbage, the MAGA garbage truck thing. I guess that's orange vest more than yellow vest. Oh my gosh. Nikki, send all the ideas our way. Thank God that people are really stepping up. I've just started to ask for money everywhere and anywhere I can. And when we started this venture, I swore that was the one thing I wasn't willing to do, was ask anyone for money. But I'm confident in my ability to just never quit, and we will eventually figure this out. And the team that God has blessed us with in terms of volunteers and county leads is just second to none. And so I know that your money will go to good use. It's certainly not padding our pockets. None of us are getting wealthy, but we do have bills to pay. So thank you for your support. So yeah, send any ideas our way. Any last thoughts, girls, before we wrap up? It's an hour. I want to keep it to an hour, and we're at an hour and 10 minutes. any last parting thoughts? And if not, we'll see you next week. Yep. Send contact@auditthevotepA.com. There's a bunch of different email addresses, but please, if you saw anything of these people inside polling locations with election protection garb or those voter protection lanyards, if you saw anything, report it to us. We're just getting started. Election integrity starts now. So anything else, you guys?
All good. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Thank you, Laura. We're going to make this a regular thing, especially the
I had
more
fun.
Yeah. Prayer. Oh, Nikki, thank you. Of course. The Lord, the victory, this victory belongs to Jesus. It's the only way that we could have stayed as diligent and vigilant as we did and not given up in the face of all of the getting just punched was our strength comes from him, from Jesus. He guided our steps. We met, I think I talked about this once before. We met every Sunday, and we're going to do this moving forward with our county leads for years, for an hour, 2 hours, brainstorming, learning from each other. Here's what's going on in this county, that county. And we closed every time in prayer, every single time. And we have no doubt that all of us on our team know that this victory belongs to the Lord. It's not ours. We were just his willing vessels that when he called, we said, okay, overhaul my life. Sure. Glad I didn't know what was ahead, because probably would have went running for the door, but nevertheless, here we are. All right, you guys, over and out. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Pray President Trump's safety. I think that's the biggest hurdle we got to get through January 20th, is that he is safe, covered by the blood of Jesus from the top of his head to the tip of his toes. Everybody surrounding him, all of his cabinet appointments are Holy Spirit inspired. Pray, and we'll see you next week.